The first snowfall of December came on a Tuesday, blanketing Chicago in white silence. I watched it from my apartment window, coffee growing cold in my hands, as my neighbor across the hall emerged from his door in running gear, seemingly immune to the freezing temperature. Ethan Brooks, 6'1" of impossible contradictions, a firefighter who read poetry, a guy who looked like he belonged in an action movie but volunteered at the animal shelter every Sunday. And the man I'd been hopelessly, pathetically in love with for 8 months. Also completely undeniably straight. I know because I'd watched him date 3 different women since he moved into 4B last April. Watched him hold doors, bring flowers, be the kind of gentleman that made my chest ache with wanting. I'd also watched each relationship fizzle after a few weeks, Ethan always seeming distracted, somewhere else even when he was right there. "Morning, Jordan," he called out, catching me starring like a creep. His smile was sunshine cutting through winter. "Crazy weather, huh?" "Insane," I managed, trying not to notice how his breath created small clouds in the cold air, how his gray eyes seemed to glow against the white backdrop. "You're actually running in this?" "Best time to run, nobody else is crazy enough to be out there." He jogged in place, warming up. "Hey, you doing anything for Christmas?" My heart lurched, probably working. I'm covering shifts at the hospital so people with families can have time off. "That's really decent of you." Something flickered across his face, disappointment. "But that was impossible." "Well, if you end up with free time, I'm hosting a thing, Christmas Eve, nothing big, just some friends, food, drinks, you should come." "I'll try," I said, knowing I wouldn't. Spending Christmas Eve watching Ethan be charming and unattainable sounded like exquisite torture. "Cool, see you around, Jordan." He flashed that devastating smile again and took off running, disappearing into the snow. I went back inside and called myself every kind of fool. "My name is Jordan Hayes, I'm 29 years old and I'm a nurse in the ICU at Northwestern Memorial. I came out when I was 22, lost some friends, kept the ones who mattered, and spent my 20s building a career and avoiding serious relationships. It wasn't that I didn't want love, it was that I'd learned early that wanting something doesn't make it possible. Like wanting your straight neighbor who barely knows you exist beyond friendly hallway conversations." Ethan had moved in last spring, and our first interaction had set the tone for everything that followed. I'd been struggling with grocery bags, my keys, and a door that stuck when he appeared like some kind of helpful superhero. "Here, let me," he'd said, taking 3 of my bags without asking. "I'm Ethan, just moved into 4B. "Jordan 4A, thanks for this." "No problem, where do you want them?" He'd carried my groceries into my kitchen, those impossibly blue-gray eyes taking in my space, the books everywhere, the plants I somehow kept alive, the photograph of me and my sister at her wedding that I kept on the counter. "Nice place," he'd said. "Very. You seem like someone who has their life together." I'd laughed. Appearances can be deceiving. "Can't they though?" Something in his voice had made me look closer, but his expression was already shifting back to friendly neutrality. "Well, neighbor, good to meet you. If you ever need anything, sugar, someone to water your plants, help hiding a body, I'm right across the hall." That had been 8 months ago. 8 months of casual conversations, borrowed cups of coffee, and me falling progressively harder for someone I could never have. My best friend Marcus thought I was masochistic. "You need to either tell him how you feel or move," he said over drinks one night in early December. "This pinning from afar thing is not healthy." "He's straight, Marcus. You don't actually know that. He dates women exclusively. I've seen 3 different women come and go." "And how long did any of those relationships last?" "That's not the point." "Maybe it is the point." Marcus leaned forward. "Maybe he's figuring things out, maybe he's not as straight as you think. Or maybe I'm projecting my hopeless crush onto someone who sees me as the friendly gay neighbor and nothing more. That's the more likely scenario." Marcus sighed. "You're impossible, you know that." I did know that. I also knew that hope was dangerous, that letting myself imagine Ethan seeing me as anything other than a neighbor was a recipe for heartbreak. So I kept my distance, kept things friendly but surface level, and told myself I was fine. I was lying. I ended up not working Christmas Eve. My supervisor had found enough coverage and insisted I take the holiday off. "You've worked the last 3 Christmases, Jordan, go have a life." So I spent the day in my apartment trying to grade myself on whether going to Ethan's party would be self-punishment or just normal friendly neighbor behavior. At 6 p.m. I heard the sounds of people arriving across the hall. Music, laughter, the warm buzz of a gathering. I imagined Ethan in his element playing host, making everyone feel welcome, being effortlessly magnetic. At 7 I decided I wasn't going. At 7:30 someone knocked on my door. Ethan stood in the hallway wearing a dark green sweater that made his eyes impossible and holding a plate covered in foil. "You didn't come," he said, and he sounded hurt. "I didn't want to intrude." "Jordan, I invited you, how would that be intruding?" He thrust the plate at me. "I made too much food anyway, figured you might be hungry." "You didn't have to." "I know I didn't have to, I wanted to." He leaned against my doorframe and I caught the scent of his cologne mixed with something that was just him. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Do you not like me, like as a person?" The question stunned me. "What? No, Ethan, of course I like you." "Then why do you always keep me at arm's length?" His eyes searched mine. "We've been neighbors for 8 months, we have good conversations, we make each other laugh, but every time I try to get closer you pull back, and I can't figure out if I did something wrong or if you just don't want to be friends." "Friends, right, that's what he wanted." "You didn't do anything wrong," I said quietly, I'm not great at letting people in." "Why not?" "That's a big question for a hallway conversation." "Then invite me in," he said it like a challenge. "The party can survive without me for 20 minutes, talk to me, Jordan." I should have said no, should have kept the wall up, protected myself. Instead, I stepped aside and let him into my apartment, into my space, into my carefully constructed isolation. He set the plate on my counter and turned to face me, giving me his full attention in that intense way he had. "So, why don't you let people in?" "Because people leave," I said, the truth coming out before I could stop it. "They find out who you really are and they decide it's not what they want, so it's easier to just not get attached." "That's a lonely way to live." "It's a safe way to live." "Safe and lonely aren't mutually exclusive, Jordan." He moved closer and I forced myself not to step back. "For what it's worth, I don't think you're nearly as hard to know as you pretend to be. I think you're kind and funny and you notice things about people, like how you always ask about my mom even though I only mentioned her once. Or how you leave coffee for the postal worker, or how you stay late at work so other people can be with their families. You notice that stuff." My voice came out smaller than intended. "I notice everything about you." The words hung in the air between us, heavy with something I didn't dare name. "Jordan, His phone buzzed, he glanced at it and grimaced. "Sorry, it's my lieutenant, I have to take this." "Of course, go." He answered the call, his expression shifting to professional concern. I heard phrases like structure fire and all hands and knew what was coming before he ended the call. "I have to go," he said, already moving toward the door. "There's a 3-alarm fire in Wicker Park, they're calling everyone in." "Be safe," I said, the words automatic but heartfelt. He paused in the doorway, looking back at me. "Jordan, this conversation isn't over, okay?" "Okay." He left and I stood in my apartment surrounded by the echo of his presence, trying to understand what had just happened. I couldn't sleep. I tried reading, tried watching television, tried everything to distract myself from imagining Ethan running into burning buildings. By 2 a.m. I was packing my apartment, phone in hand, refreshing the news for updates on the Wicker Park fire. 3-alarm had turned to 4-alarm. Residential building potentially occupied, multiple crews on scene. At 3:15 a.m., my phone rang with an unknown number. "Hello. Is this Jordan Hayes?" A woman's voice, professional but strained. My heart stopped. "Yes, who is this?" "This is Northwestern Memorial Hospital. We have Ethan Brooks here. He listed you as his emergency contact." "What happened? Is he okay?" I was already grabbing my keys, my coat. "He's stable, smoke inhalation and a minor burn on his left arm. We're keeping him overnight for observation. He's asking for you." "I'm on my way." I drove through empty Chicago streets, my hands shaking on the wheel. Emergency contact. He'd listed me as his emergency contact. When? Why? The hospital was familiar territory, just a different floor than where I usually worked. I found Ethan in a private room, oxygen cannula in his nose, his left arm bandaged, soot still smudged on his face. "Hey," he said when I walked in, his voice rough, "didn't mean to ruin your Christmas." "Shut up." I crossed to his bed, professional instincts kicking in as I checked his vitals on the monitor. "Your oxygen saturation is low, you're staying here at least 24 hours. "Yes, Nurse Hayes," a small smile. "I knew you'd go into medical mode. Someone has to." "What were you thinking, running into a burning building?" "That's literally my job, Jordan." "I know, but my voice broke. You could have died." "But I didn't." He reached for my hand with his good arm. "I'm okay, really." I looked down at our joined hands. "Why am I your emergency contact?" "Because you're the person I trust most in the world." "Ethan." "I know it's weird, we're just neighbors, but you're also more than that, at least you are to me." He squeezed my hand. "Jordan, there's something I need to tell you, something I've been trying to tell you for months. You're on pain medication, maybe this should wait." "It's waited long enough." He shifted in the bed, wincing. "I'm not straight." The words hit me like a physical force. "What?" "I'm not straight, I'm bi, maybe pan, I'm still figuring out the labels, but I know that I'm attracted to people regardless of gender, and I know," he met my eyes, "I know that I'm completely gone for my neighbor in 4A. I couldn't breathe, this wasn't happening. This was the smoke inhalation talking or the medication or. "Say something," Ethan whispered, "please." "I don't understand, you dated all those women." "I know, because I was scared. Because I'd only recently admitted to myself that men were even an option. Because I've known I had feelings for you since about week 2 of living across the hall from you, and it terrified me." 2 weeks. "You brought me cookies, remember? You said welcome to the building and you'd made these incredible chocolate chip cookies and you had flour on your cheek. And I wanted to kiss you so badly I could barely breathe." I remembered. I'd been trying to be friendly, to welcome the hot new neighbor without being obvious about my immediate attraction. "So I dated women," he continued. "Tried to convince myself I was imagining what I felt when I was around you, but every relationship failed because I kept comparing them to you, to our conversations, to the way you make me laugh, to how I feel when I see you in the hallway." His voice dropped. "I've been falling in love with you for 8 months, Jordan, and I've been too scared to tell you." Tears burned my eyes. "Why tonight? Why tell me now?" "Because I almost died tonight." His hand tightened on mine. "I was in that building and the ceiling was coming down and all I could think was that I'd never told you how I feel, that I'd never kissed you, that I'd wasted 8 months being scared instead of being honest, and I decided that if I made it out I wasn't going to waste any more time." "Ethan." "You don't have to feel the same way," he said quickly. "I know this is a lot, I know I'm probably completely screwing up our friendship, but I needed you to know, I needed." I kissed him, leaned forward and pressed my lips to his, cutting off his rambling explanation. He made a surprised sound, then kissed me back, his good hand coming up to cup my face. He tasted like smoke and mint and possibility. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he was smiling. "So I'm guessing you feel the same way?" he asked. "I've been in love with you since you carried my groceries," I admitted. "I thought I was going crazy, thought I was projecting, you seemed so straight." "I'm really not," he laughed, then winced. "Ow, laughing hurts." "Then stop talking and rest." I stood, but he grabbed my hand. "Don't go. I'm a nurse here, I can stay." I pulled a chair close to his bed. "I'm not going anywhere." "Good." His eyes were already drooping. "Jordan." "Yes. Merry Christmas." "Merry Christmas, Ethan." I watched him fall asleep, our hands still joined, and felt my carefully constructed walls crumbling into dust. Christmas morning dawned cold and bright. I'd stayed at the hospital all night, dozing in the chair beside Ethan's bed, waking every time a nurse came in for vitals. Around 7 a.m. he stirred, blinking awake slowly. "You're still here," he said, voice rough. "Told you I wasn't going anywhere." I stood to check his oxygen levels. "How are you feeling?" "Like I got hit by a truck, but in a good way." He caught my hand as I adjusted his IV. "Last night wasn't a dream, right? I actually told you how I feel. And kiss me, don't forget that part." "I definitely didn't forget that part." He pulled me closer. "Can we do it again for research purposes? You're recovering from smoke inhalation. Jordan, please." So I kissed him again, gentler this time, careful of his injuries. His good hand threaded through my hair, and I felt 8 months of longing pour into that kiss. Yeah, he breathed when we separated. Still not straight, definitely not straight. I laughed, and he grinned at me, and it felt like the sun coming out after a long winter. What happens now? I asked. Well, first I get out of this hospital. Not for at least 24 hours. Fine, then I take my incredibly patient neighbor on a proper date, multiple dates, all the dates. His expression turned serious. Jordan, I know this is complicated, I'm still figuring myself out, I don't have all the answers about my sexuality or what label fits or… I don't need you to have all the answers, I interrupted. I just need you to be honest with me and with yourself. I can do that, he squeezed my hand. I want to do that, you make me want to be brave. The rest of Christmas Day was surreal. Ethan's lieutenant came by around noon, checking on him and thanking him for his heroism. Apparently, Ethan had carried 2 kids out of the building before the ceiling collapsed. Watching his boss describe what he'd done, I felt terror retroactively grip my chest. You're insane, I told him after the lieutenant left. Absolutely insane. It's my job. It's going to give me a heart attack. I ran my hands through my hair. How do people date firefighters? How do they sleep at night knowing you're running into burning buildings? By trusting that I'm good at my job and I'm careful. He pulled me back to his bedside. Jordan, I can't promise I'll never get hurt, but I can promise I'll always come back to you, always. You can't promise that. Watch me, his eyes were fierce. I've spent 8 months afraid of this, of you, of what I feel. I'm done being afraid. I almost died last night and all I could think about was getting back to you. That's not going to change. I wanted to believe him, wanted to let myself fall completely into this terrifying, wonderful thing blooming between us. But fear still had its claws in me. What if this doesn't work? I asked quietly. What if you decide you made a mistake? What if? What if it does work? He countered. What if this is exactly what we both need? What if we're perfect for each other and we waste it being scared? I don't know how to not be scared. Then we'll be scared together. He tugged me closer until I was perched on the edge of his bed. Jordan, I can't promise perfect, I can't promise easy, but I can promise that my feelings are real, that I want this, want you more than I've wanted anything. Can that be enough? I looked into his eyes, those impossible gray-blue eyes that had haunted me for 8 months, and made a choice. Yeah, I whispered, that's enough. Ethan was discharged on December 26th with strict orders to rest. I drove him home, helped him up the stairs to our floor, and tried not to hover as he unlocked his apartment. You want to come in, he asked, or do you need space? I don't want to push. I want to come in. His apartment was the mirror image of mine, but completely different. Where I had books and plants, he had photography equipment and free weights. But there were also poetry collections on his coffee table, a ridiculous number of succulents in the window, and photos of people he loved covering one entire wall. This is nice, I said, very you. Is that good? It's perfect. He moved closer, careful of his bandaged arm. Jordan, can I ask you something? Always. What do you need from me to feel safe in this? The question caught me off guard. What? You've been hurt before, you're scared, I get it, so tell me what you need. Communication, space, constant reassurance, I'll give you whatever it takes. I thought about it, really thought. Honesty, I need you to be honest with me about how you're feeling, about where you are in figuring yourself out. I need to know that if this gets hard or confusing, you'll talk to me instead of just disappearing. I can do that, he took my hand. What else? Patience, I'm going to be scared sometimes. I'm going to worry that you'll wake up one day and realize you've made a mistake. I'll need you to be patient with that. Done. Anything else? Kiss me when you mean it, not because you think you should, but because you want to. That, he said, pulling me closer, will not be a problem. He kissed me then, slow and deep and absolutely intentional. I felt it everywhere, in every cell, like my entire body was waking up from a long sleep. Okay, I breathed when we separated. That works. He laughed, resting his forehead against mine. You're incredible, you know that. I'm a mess. You're a beautiful mess, my favorite mess. We took it slow, which was both wonderful and excruciating. Ethan's injuries meant he needed to rest, which gave us time to just talk, really talk. We spent hours in his apartment or mine, learning each other in ways that had nothing to do with physical intimacy. I learned that Ethan had known something was different about his attraction since college but had pushed it down, convinced himself it was just admiration or curiosity. That his first crush on a guy had been his college roommate. Nothing happened, but I couldn't stop thinking about him, and that he'd spent years dating women while trying to ignore the pull he felt toward men. "When did you know for sure?" I asked one night, curled up on his couch while snow fell outside. "About 2 months ago, I went to a queer film festival with a friend from work. She's lesbian and she dragged me along, and watching these stories, seeing myself in them, something clicked." He ran his fingers through my hair absently. "I went home and cried for like 3 hours, not sad crying, just release, like I'd been holding my breath for years and finally let it out." "Did you tell anyone?" "Just my friend Kate. She was amazing about it, gave me resources, answered questions, didn't push. And then I started going to this support group for people figuring out their sexuality later in life." "You did?" I turned to look at him. "Every Tuesday for the last 6 weeks. It's been really helpful hearing other people's stories, realizing I'm not alone in this." "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I was terrified." His arms tightened around me. "You were so comfortable in your identity, so confident, and I was this confused mess who couldn't even label himself properly. I thought you'd think I was ridiculous or that I was experimenting, or—" "Ethan," I shifted to face him properly, "I would never think that. Coming out isn't a race, there's no timeline for figuring yourself out. I know that now, but in the moment, I was scared you'd see me as less than, as not really queer because I dated women, as not worth your time." "You're worth everything," I said fiercely, "and your journey is valid, all of it." He kissed me then, grateful and tender and absolutely real. New Year's Eve arrived with unexpected complications. Ethan's mother called. I was in his apartment when his phone rang, watching him tense as he saw the caller ID. "I should take this," he said, but he looked anxious. "Do you want me to go?" "No, stay," he answered. "Hi, Mom." I couldn't hear her side of the conversation, but I watched Ethan's expression shift, defensive, then frustrated, then sad. "Mom, I already told you, no, he's not a phase, because I care about him. It doesn't matter how long I've known, Mom, please." My stomach sank. She knew about me, about us, and from the sound of it, she wasn't happy. "I have to go," Ethan said finally. "We'll talk later. I love you too, bye." He ended the call and sat heavily on the couch, running his hands through his hair. "That bad?" I asked quietly. "She thinks I'm confused, that I'm going through some kind of crisis. She wants me to think carefully before I make any life-altering decisions." He looked at me, pain written across his face. "I told her about you, about us, and she didn't take it well." "Ethan, if this is too much—" "Don't," he grabbed my hand. "Don't you dare suggest I should end this to make my mother comfortable. I won't do that, I can't. I don't want to come between you and your family." "You're not, she is, by refusing to accept this part of me." He pulled me closer. "Jordan, my mom is amazing in a lot of ways, but she's also traditional, religious. She had this whole vision of my life, wife, kids, white picket fence, and I'm disrupting that vision." "Will she come around?" "I don't know, maybe with time." He kissed my forehead. "But even if she doesn't, it doesn't change how I feel about you. It doesn't change what I want." I wanted to believe him, but I'd seen this before, people who chose their families over their partners, who couldn't handle the pressure of disappointing their parents. And Ethan was close with his mother. This could destroy us before we really began. "Talk to me," Ethan said, reading my silence. "I can see you spiraling. I'm scared you'll resent me, if your relationship with your mom suffers because of me." "It's not because of you, it's because of her inability to accept me as I am. That's not your fault." He cupped my face in his hands. "Jordan, listen to me. My mother's approval is not worth losing you. Nothing is worth losing you, do you understand? What if you change your mind?" "I won't." "You don't know that." "I do." He kissed me, firm and certain. "I know because I've spent 29 years trying to be who everyone else wanted me to be, and I'm done. I'm choosing myself, I'm choosing us, and if people can't handle that, that's their problem, not ours." We spent New Year's Eve at a queer bar in Boystown that Ethan had started frequenting. His friend Kate was there, a petite woman with a shaved head and an infectious laugh, along with several people from his support group. "So you're the famous Jordan," Kate said, pulling me into a hug. "I've heard so much about you. All good things, I hope. He's been mooning over you for months. It was painful to watch." Kate, Ethan groaned. "What? It's true, you literally called me at midnight once because you'd had a dream about him and needed to process your feelings." I turned to Ethan, delighted. "You did." I plead the fifth, but he was smiling, his arm around my waist. Being there with him, surrounded by queer people laughing and celebrating, felt significant. This was Ethan's community now, our community. He was building a life that included this part of himself, and he wanted me in it. At midnight, as the bar erupted in cheers and Auld Lang Syne, Ethan pulled me close and kissed me like we were the only two people in the world. "Happy New Year, Jordan Hayes," he whispered against my lips. "Happy New Year, Ethan Brooks." "This year is going to be amazing," he said with absolute certainty. "I can feel it." And looking into his eyes, I let myself believe it. January brought Chicago's worst winter storm in a decade. The city shut down and Ethan and I found ourselves snowed in together, him in my apartment because the heat was better. "This is very domestic," he observed, watching me make coffee in my kitchen. "Very couple-y. Is that okay?" "It's perfect." He came up behind me, wrapping his arms around my waist. "I could get used to this, waking up with you, coffee together, just us." I leaned back against him, letting myself enjoy the moment. 3 weeks into whatever this was, and it already felt essential, like breathing. "Jordan," he said softly, "what are we? What do you want us to be?" "Boyfriends, partners, whatever word means you're mine and I'm yours, and we're figuring this out together." I turned in his arms. "I want that too." "Yes." "Yeah," I kissed him. "You're my boyfriend, Ethan Brooks." "And you're mine," he grinned. "Can I tell people that? Can I post about it?" "You want to go Instagram official?" I teased. "I want everyone to know how gone I am for you." His expression turned serious. "But only if you're comfortable. I know this is all very new, and if you need privacy." "I don't need privacy, I need you." I took his hand. "Tell whoever you want, I'm proud to be with you." That afternoon, he posted a photo of us from New Year's mid-kiss, the joy obvious on both our faces. The caption was simple: "Started the new year right, #boyfriend finally." The response was immediate and overwhelming. Friends congratulating him, people expressing surprise, a few negative comments that he blocked without hesitation. But mostly it was support. And then his mother called. I was in the shower when it happened, but I heard his voice rise through the door, frustrated and hurt and defensive. When I emerged, he was sitting on my couch, phone clutched in his hand, looking devastated. "Ethan." She saw the post? His voice was hollow. "She said I'm embarrassing the family, that I need to think about my father's reputation. He's a deacon at their church. She said." He stopped, swallowing hard. "She said if I insist on this lifestyle, I'm not welcome at family gatherings until I come to my senses." My heart broke for him. "Oh, Ethan." I told her I'm not changing my mind, that you're not going anywhere, that she needs to accept this or... He looked up at me, eyes shining. "I chose you, Jordan, over her ultimatum. I chose us." "Are you sure?" "Ethan, family is." "You're my family too." He stood, crossing to me. "You and Kate and the people at the support group and anyone else who actually sees me and loves me for who I am, that's family, not people who only want me if I fit their perfect mold." I pulled him into my arms, holding him while he shook with suppressed emotion. "I'm so sorry." "Don't be, this isn't your fault." He pulled back to look at me. "Jordan, I need you to understand something. This was always going to happen, whether it was you or some other guy I fell for. My mother's issue isn't with you specifically, it's with me being bisexual. That's not something either of us can fix. What if she never comes around? Then I'll grieve that loss and move forward, because I'm not going back in the closet. I'm not pretending to be someone I'm not anymore." His jaw set with determination. "I wasted too many years hiding. I'm done hiding." February arrived, and with it, Valentine's Day. Ethan had been planning for weeks, dropping hints that I steadfastly ignored. "I'm taking you somewhere special," he announced on February 13th. "Where?" That would ruin the surprise. The next day, he showed up at my door in a suit that should have been illegal, holding roses and wearing a nervous smile. "You clean up nice," I said, taking in the sight of him. "You haven't even changed yet. Give me 10 minutes." When I emerged in my own suit, navy blue, the one I saved for special occasions, his expression made every second worth it. "Wow," he breathed, "you're, wow. Articulate. Shut up and let me appreciate my incredibly hot boyfriend." He took me to a rooftop restaurant with views of the entire city, the skyline glittering against the winter night. We ate incredible food, drank wine, and talked about everything and nothing. "Can I tell you something?" Ethan said as we waited for dessert. "Always. I used to think I was broken, that something was wrong with me because I never felt what I was supposed to feel with women. Like there was this script I was supposed to follow: attraction, dating, marriage, and I couldn't make myself stick to it. And now I know I wasn't broken, I was just reading the wrong script." He reached across the table for my hand. "Being with you feels right in a way nothing else ever has, like all the pieces finally fit. Even though it's complicated, even with your mother and figuring out your identity and especially because of all that." He squeezed my hand. "Jordan, loving you has made me braver. It's made me face parts of myself I was terrified to examine. And yeah, it's messy and complicated and sometimes really hard, but it's also the most real thing I've ever experienced." Tears burned my eyes. "I love you." The words slipped out before I could stop them, but I didn't want to take them back. Ethan's face transformed, shock giving way to joy so pure it hurt to look at. "Say it again," he whispered. "I love you, Ethan Brooks. I'm in love with you, completely, terrifyingly in love with you." "I love you too." He stood, pulling me up with him. "Dance with me." "There's no music." "I don't care." So we danced on that rooftop, swaying to silence and the sound of the city, and I felt every wall I'd ever built crumble into dust. March came in like a lion. Ethan's mother had maintained radio silence for 6 weeks and I could see it wearing on him. He tried to hide it, but I knew the signs: the way he'd stare at his phone hopping for a message, the way he'd go quiet sometimes, lost in thoughts he wouldn't share. "Talk to me," I said one night, finding him on his balcony despite the cold. "I miss her," he admitted. "Is that stupid?" She gave me an ultimatum, basically disowned me, and I miss her. "It's not stupid, she's your mother. I keep thinking if I just explained it better, if I could make her understand." "Ethan," I took his hands, "you can't make someone understand who doesn't want to, and that's not your failure, it's hers." "But what if I'm throwing away my family for a relationship that might not last? What if?" The words hit like a physical blow. "Is that what you think, that we might not last?" "No, that came out wrong, He ran his hands through his hair. "I'm scared, Jordan. What if I'm making the wrong choice? What if years from now I regret this?" "Do you regret it now?" "No, but..." "Then stop borrowing trouble from the future." I stepped closer. "Ethan, I can't promise we'll last forever, nobody can promise that, but I can promise that right now in this moment what we have is real, and it's worth fighting for." "Is it worth losing my family?" The question hung between us, impossible and heartbreaking. "That's something only you can answer," I said quietly. "And if the answer is no, if you need to step back to try to repair things with your mother, I'll understand." "You will." "I'll hate it, it'll destroy me, but I'll understand." I cupped his face. "I love you too much to make you choose, so if you need to go, I won't stop you." He kissed me then, desperate and searching, like he was trying to memorize the taste of me. "I don't want to go," he whispered. "I don't want to lose you." "Then don't." "But my mother will come around, or she won't, but you can't live your life for her approval, you have to live it for yourself." He held me on that balcony as the wind cut through us, and I felt him trembling, with cold or emotion, I couldn't tell. "I'm choosing you," he said finally. "Again, always, I'm choosing you." Spring came gradually, then all at once. By April, Chicago was thawing and so were we. Ethan had found his footing in his identity, started calling himself bisexual with confidence instead of uncertainty. He'd become active in the LGBTQ plus firefighter network, was planning to march in Pride for the first time. "Come with me," he said one evening in late May. "To Pride, I want you there." "Of course I'll be there." I mean, march with me with the firefighters. I want everyone to know you're mine. I'm yours, am I? Completely and totally, he pulled me close. Jordan Hayes, you're stuck with me, hope you know that. I think I can live with that. Pride was overwhelming in the best way. Ethan in his dress blues marching with his fellow firefighters, openly and proudly bisexual. I walked alongside him, and when he grabbed my hand in the middle of Michigan Avenue with thousands of people watching, I felt something shift, the last piece of fear finally letting go. I love you, he shouted over the noise of the crowd. I love you too, I shouted back. And then, impossibly, I heard a familiar voice. Ethan. We both turned. His mother stood at the barrier, tears streaming down her face. Ethan froze. Mom. She pushed through the crowd and I started to step back to give them space, but Ethan held my hand tighter. Mom, what are you? I'm sorry, the words came out choked. I'm so sorry, baby, I was wrong, I was scared and stupid and wrong. What changed? Your father showed me videos of you from today, from other events, and I saw how happy you are, how alive, and I realized I've been so focused on what I thought you should be that I couldn't see who you actually are. She looked at me. You're Jordan. Yes, ma'am. He loves you very much, he talks about you constantly. I love him too, I said. She nodded, wiping her eyes. Can I try again to be your mother, to accept all of you, to be part of your life? Ethan was crying now too. Yeah, Mom, we can try again. She pulled him into a hug, and I watched this man I loved reconcile with his mother in the middle of Pride, surrounded by thousands of people celebrating love in all its forms. I woke up on Christmas morning to find Ethan already awake, watching me with soft eyes. Merry Christmas, he said. Merry Christmas, I stretched. What time is it? Early, but I couldn't sleep. He propped himself up on one elbow. I've been thinking about last Christmas. The fire. Everything, the fire, the hospital, telling you how I felt. Do you remember what you asked me in the hospital? I asked you a lot of things. You asked me what happens now. He reached over to his nightstand and pulled out a small box. This is what happens now. My heart stopped. Ethan. It's not what you think, or maybe it is, I don't know. He opened the box to reveal a key. This is a key to this apartment. I want you to move in with me, officially. No more splitting time between 4A and 4B, just us together. Relief and joy flooded through me. You scared me, I thought you were proposing. Would that be so bad? No, but I think we should live together first. Good point, he grinned. So, will you move in with me? Yes, absolutely yes. He kissed me slow and sweet, and I felt the rightness of it settle into my bones. I have something for you too, I said, reaching into my own nightstand. I handed him an envelope. Inside was a photo, us from Pride, holding hands, both laughing at something, joy radiating from every pixel. I'm framing this, he said, for the living room, our living room. Our living room, I repeated, testing the words. I like the sound of that. We spent Christmas morning in bed talking about logistics and furniture and the life we were building together. His mother called around noon, inviting us to dinner, a tradition we'd started over the summer, slowly rebuilding their relationship. As we got ready, Ethan caught my hand. Hey, he said, thank you. For what? For being patient with me, for loving me while I figured myself out, for not giving up on us even when it was hard. Thank you for being brave enough to tell me the truth, I countered, for choosing yourself and choosing us. Best decision I ever made. Looking at him, this man who'd found me at my most guarded and loved me into being brave, I couldn't help but agree. We'd started as neighbors, became friends, fell in love during a crisis, and now we were building something real, something lasting, something that felt like coming home. I love you, I said. I love you too, he kissed me quickly. Now come on, my mother is making her famous pot roast, and if we're late she'll never let me hear the end of it. We left our apartment, soon to be just his apartment, soon to be our home, and I thought about how much had changed in 1 year. How the man I'd thought was unattainable had turned out to be exactly who I needed. How his journey to understanding himself had become our journey together. Life wasn't perfect. We still had challenges. Ethan's job still terrified me. We still navigated his relationship with his identity. We still had moments of doubt and fear. But we had each other. and that was enough. More than enough. It was everything.